Chris Ball, otherwise known as Sacriel to his followers, is a popular streamer specializing in PvP survival games. I had the chance to connect with him and talk a little bit about one of our favorite games at the office right now, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. He offered some great insight and key strategies for both new and experienced players. What about the game makes it fun for you?
Well, I've always loved strategy games, and I've always loved having some opponents to outthink and outplay. And PUBG is such a sandbox that it really means that the person that thinks on their feet and has the most sound strategy tends to win. But there is always that RNG element where, you know, the circle can just pull you over an open field and no amount of strategy can beat that. Yeah. But for the most part, it's a really interesting psychological and skillful challenge that I get a lot of entertainment from.
Yeah, and even though the circle might kind of screw you over sometimes having to adapt is what's fun about that, because you have a plan, like a path, and then you go, oh, everything's
gone down.
Change.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you have to think on your feet and you have to adapt, which is some of the best games I've had have been the ones where I'm in the worst situation and I'm outside the circle and I've got no meds and I'm driving a car and I'm being shot at and I just get inside and I'm just hiding behind a hay bale, medding, you know, just clinging on, and then you kill a guy and you run over, you get his meds, and it's like, oh, he's back on again, and you get stuck in.
But no, have you made any big mistakes in the past over time that you've realized that you have overcome, or something that you see people making often?
That's an interesting question. I see people make a lot of positional mistakes all the time. A lot of people, for example, if they're on like a downward facing slope and there's a tree and they're behind the tree and the person they're fighting is out in a field, a lot of people will stand tall behind that tree because they're thinking, well, the tree's in front of me, I can lean and I can shoot that guy and he can't shoot me. And they often forget that there's other people around them. And just something as simple as being crouched behind that tree, especially when you're on like a little decline like that, means that if someone's at the top of that hill and they just quickly look over, they're not going to see the back of your head shooting at the other guy. So people often make little mistakes like that where they're on the wrong side of cover, or they're not in the kind of right posture to really maximize that camouflage. A really big one that's coming out at the moment is a lot of people are realizing how strong concealment is instead of cover. So concealment is when you're just hidden from shots, and cover is when you're behind something that stops the shots. And there's a really strong meta at the moment where you just crouch behind a bush, and a lot of people will come up behind you and they look at the tree, no one there, no one at that tree, no one at that tree, no one at the rock, and they just walk straight past you, and you were just sat next to the tree in a bush and they just walk right past you and you shoot them in the back. So yeah, every day, by the end of the day, I've learned something new that I used to do wrong, and I try my best to adapt my overall ongoing strategy to encompass that.
Do you have like a golden rule that you always, like, you'll never break? You'll always do this thing? Not every game. I mean, like, you'll just never make this mistake, or always go for this gunner. Some
of my golden rules are just like, one thing I always adhere to is never go where everyone will go. So yeah, wherever the plane's going, try and find a section to land at that's 2 map blocks away from where the plane is, because you know by definition most people either don't know the right techniques with the parachute to get there, or even they just won't be bothered to go there. So my golden rule that I actually follow always is typically that. But I always have golden rules where, like, if I'm in the final 10, I'll say to my chat, right chat, we're in the final 10. Golden rule, don't shoot anyone that's not shooting at you. And then someone walks past and I'm like, ooh, and just start shooting them, and everyone's just like, you just said the golden rule. But yeah,
so
like,
you break it, but you have it at least.
But again, when you're on camera, if you're just sat there looking at the back of someone's head and you're like, I shouldn't shoot him, and then people in chat are like, shoot, god damn it, shoot, and you're like, yeah, okay, and you shoot him, and then someone else shoots you from the side. Yeah, but yeah, there's plenty of rules I know, but I always break them.
Yeah, I wanted to also touch on, speaking of your subs talking about things that what they want out of the game. You have a big community when it comes to your streaming, especially when it comes to pub. Like, you guys have gotten lots of different creative modes. You've been playing a bunch of Sac Down.
Sac Down, yeah. Yeah.
It looks really fun. Has that been adapted at all? Like, have you been changing that on the fly, or have you found the way to do it?
Yeah, so we've had to adapt it a bunch of times, like changing the rules on what you can and can't use. So to begin with, it was like 2 teams of 6. So it's like 12 Delta Force, and they can use every item in the game, versus like 80 something insurgents, and they can only use level 1 gear and no meds and no scopes and no suppressors and all this kind of rules. And so we tried to make it like the movie Black Hawk Down, So it's like 12 elite geared soldiers versus tons of people with crappy weapons, and it worked really well. But the problem is when you have 80 people firing UMPs at you, it's a lot of damage.
Yeah, no matter what.
So then we started to just crank it up a little bit, and now we're at the moment the current balance is 3 teams of 7 Rangers, and it's starting to get to the point where either they barely win, like they manage to get across the map and extract. Like what the premise of this game is, the deltas have to get from point A to point B, and there's 80 insurgents in the way, so they have to kind of spearhead their way through and then get to the other side and throw a smoke grenade down, and then they're extracted. And we're getting to the point now where it's really close. It's coming down to like 10v10 at the final extraction point. It's really, really close now. Nice. But we did a new version of it today called Sac-Hawk-Down Siege, where the deltas are in the military base on the South Island, and then the insurgents have to take over the military base and pop a smoke grenade inside the radar tower. So all the deltas are out there in little groups, in pockets, in different buildings, and just waves of insurgents coming from every direction, and they have to try and hold them off, and it's really crazy.
And then I know like you also use a lot of, sometimes you'll be in a situation where chat will be like, well, you didn't do this right or something, and you use the art with Sac. Have you ever, is there other things that like you think that people still don't get, or that you would like to use it for?
I don't know, I find it a really useful tool. So when people say like, oh, you should have rushed, or you should have camped, or you should have used a grenade, or you should have done this, a lot of the time when you're disconnected from the game and you're just watching, you aren't in the same mind frame as the person playing. They have a feel for like, I heard shots over there, and they can gauge the distance, and they saw a bullet hit a tree that maybe the viewer didn't, so they know someone's still a certain direction. So a lot of the time when I encounter something where either I'm successful or we die, I will sit down and draw it and be like, okay, so I was here, and there was a tree here, and there was a building here, and da-da-da. So you're saying I should have gone here, but if we watch the video, you notice that da-da-da-da, and I draw where people are, and then people go, oh, there's a guy there, or oh, you didn't have this, or that's not how that works. So it's just such a useful tool to really be able to nail down concrete understanding of game mechanics and military strategy and all sorts of stuff. And the viewers really like it. They get a lot from it.
Yeah, I mean, so like in one of those scenarios, so like I was thinking about it, like you've got you and your ally running, you get down, or no, your ally gets downed, and you can't tell from where they are. Do you focus on your ally, or do you try to gun down or push the enemy? Say you actually, maybe you can see that they're like less than 100 meters away. What's the priority balance?
One thing you can actually do is when you approach your downed ally, is you can look for the blood splat. And if you can see it, it's on their back because they're hunched over, so you know they got shot in the back. So you can actually tell where you're hit from. If it's a crossbow bolt, you can see the direction. And if there's a blood splat, they don't have pass-throughs. So if they get shot here, then they got shot in the way they were facing. So you can actually use some information to try and figure it out. You could always just immediately start smashing smoke grenades out. That's always a good thing. But in a real tight situation, one of the best things to do, ironically, is to get the frying pan out and run over to your teammate and start reviving. And it adds like a 20% chance that if someone sprays at you to try and finish you off, ding, hits the pad, and you go, oh,
because
he's over there.
Like, your hand is still technically holding
exactly.
it.
Because you put your hand on the back of you put your hand out to reach out to med them, and the pan's in your hand. So it kind of literally covers them a little bit, and then it can absorb shots. So there's a few different things you can do in that situation.
Are there anything else that you think could benefit the game to make it more of a healthier competitive game?
The circle RNG definitely needs fixing. We've spoken about it at length on my channel, and there's one core thing. The circle is the same whether you play solos, duos, or squads. Now, if you're in a solo game and you're running into the circle and someone steps out in front of you to kill you or to stop you and you shoot them, they're dead and you can carry on and loot them and keep going. If you're in a duos game, that if you shoot them and they go down, let's say they're in a building, their teammate can revive them. So now you've got effectively 3 people to deal with. You down him, he gets up again, and you've still got him and his teammate. And then in squads, it's even worse. To kill a 4-man squad in a building or in any kind of reasonable cover takes an exceptional amount of coordination and firepower and positioning and time, more importantly. But the circle doesn't care whether you're a 4-man squad or a solo. So if 2 squads are fighting and then the circle's coming, all the squads die. And you will find that in 90% of the squad games, probably 80% of the people die to the circle, and then 20% of the people get to fight. And those 20% are just the lucky ones that happen to be near the circle.
I can tell you that. That's most
happens
of the time.
all the time, right? Yeah. And the fix that I think would be most useful for that is every time someone dies, the circle should stop for 10 seconds. So if you have 4 people here, and the circle's on its way, and they both come out of their building, or buildings, or cover, or whatever, and they're running to the circle, and they go, oh god, there's people there, they start fighting, 3 or 4 people die, the circle stops for 30 or 40 seconds. And then those people can loot, the victors can loot the other ones, or if they're both wounded or both taking losses, they can just med up. And then people that heard that firefight, other squads, will be like, hey, the circle stopped, I've got a great reposition to kill that squad. They can go out and fight, instead of going, oh god, the circle's coming, I need to stay in here. So, and we're not talking about delaying the circle every circle, because obviously if you have 100 people and you had 10 seconds per person, that's a lot of seconds.
The game a lot, yeah.
But when you're down to the final 20, when you've worked your hardest to get to that circle, if you're running along and 2 people step out on you and you go kill and kill them both, and you're like, oh, I'm really wounded, there's nothing worse than just seeing that circle go whoosh past you and you go, oh, I'm dead now anyway. Well, wouldn't it be better if that circle stopped and went, hey, you killed 2 people? Other people heard it though, so be careful. But if you want, you can go and loot them and get back in the circle. And then it feels a lot more like, because let's think, the way I think of it is this, it's really simple. And I think this is the clearest way of looking at it. The circle's job is to force fights. If the fights are already happening, the circle doesn't need to do anything. Is that not like the most clear way of looking at it? If the circle says, whoa, 4 people just died, I can stop for a minute. And then someone else comes out and kills the people that won that fight, then it stops for even longer. Because other people heard that firefight. So they go, oh, we've got 1:30 now. Let's reposition on that guy that ran out of that barn. And then all of a sudden, everyone's fighting in an arena, and the one that is best wins. Rather than you win your fight, circle kills you. Or you lose your fight, circle kills the guy that killed you. And the person that's in the middle of the circle, who got lucky effectively, is like what made you all, they literally just see like, you know, kill, circle death, kill, circle death, and they see one guy running in the circle on half health, and they go bang, and it's like, you've won, and it's like, oh, okay. So it's a lackluster win for the winner, and it's a frustrating game for the other 8 teams. Why not just have the circle freeze? And I think that's a really simple fix that would bring a lot of competitive angles to the game.
Be sure to follow Sacriel on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. He also just launched a Kickstarter for his new game Breaking Point. For more videos like this, go to Corsair.com/gaming.